So this video is a video showing the removal of the cam bearings on a 351 Windsor. Now, why would you want to replace the cam bearings? Well, if you're doing an engine overhaul, it's something you might want to consider because they often get worn out. As you can see here, in this 351, there was a oil malfunction, which would cause low oil pressure in the engine, and the cam bearings obviously took a lot of that abuse. Now, this video will be showing how to remove them using a cam bearing removal tool. So essentially how you want to get started, you want to get the block down and you want to remove your cam. Well, how do you remove your cam? There is a retaining plate on the front of the engine. You take that off, take a flathead screwdriver, then you slowly wiggle your cam out of all 4 channels. That cam will come out, and this is how you want to store it. You want to store it standing up. This way you don't get any cams that sag, because the sheer weight of the cam itself will sag, and then you got to replace the whole cam. Now, what tool will you be using to remove these cam bearings? Well, the tool I'll be using is a cam bearing removal tool. It is a specialty tool. In my mind, it is the only tool you should be using for this job because of how precise they have to go in and how carefully they have to go in. This is what the tool looks like. You could get it off Amazon for about $100. Now let's get into it. So essentially what you want to have with this cam bearing tool, there's a rod that goes through. It's long enough to go through the center of the cam channels. And it's got a crush collar on it that essentially, as you tighten it, this portion expands and it grabs the cam bearing, and it will actually grab it with the rubber collar. And the steel collar at the back that's expandable will grab the edges of the cam bearing. So what you're seeing right now, that's the rubber collar, and that's the expandable collar at the back that grabs the cam bearing edges. So you select the size that works for you, you put it on the end, it has a little extension, and essentially you drive it out the center as evenly as possible. I'm going to attempt to do this so you guys can see what is happening as I'm banging on the end of this cam bearing removal tool. And just like that, the cam bearing comes out. Now, closer inspection shows grooves out of the cam bearing that go pretty well all the way around, that are very, very deep. Now, it is important with cam bearings that they, or any kind of friction bearing, that the surface is nice and smooth, because that's how it uses the oil to hydrodynamically support the cam or the crank or whatever be it that you're working on. It's got to have that nice smooth surface for the oil to ride across, and as you can see, these ones are pretty shot, which would lead to a failure. Now, as you get deeper into the engine and what channels of cam bearings you're taking out, you're going to use this cone that's provided in the tool. You're just going to put it through the opening of the camshaft. So you're going to fit it like that, and you're just going to punch them out. Now, as you can see here, we're getting further and further down in the cam bearings, and we're on to one of the last ones. This tool works really well. Just got to make sure that you have the right amount of room between the back of the tool, the back of the expandable collar, and your camshaft journals. Now, looking at some of the cam bearings we took out, here's a really bad example of what a good cam bearing should look like. This is not what you want in your engine, and this is what would lead to a failure of a camshaft, and you would experience delayed acceleration, poor timing, bad air intake, valve lash. You would experience a whole bunch of stuff with a bearing that is like that. So that's what you don't want to see.